chainsaw maniacs out there. Fat Samurai Guy here, and in today's video I'm going to give you couple of quickie movie reviews of all the films that we watched during our horror movie marathon over the weekend. Just to give you guys a quick heads up, I'm probably going to butcher everyone's names, so I apologize up front.
First up, we have The Hallow.
Directed by Corin Hardy, starring Joseph Mall. It's about a family who moves into a remote mill house in Ireland, and they find themselves in a fight for survival against these demonic creatures living in the woods. This movie had a lot of potential. The movie looked great, the acting performances were well done, and even some of the creature effects I enjoyed. The first half of the film is kind of a slow burn. You would get the neighbors that would keep coming down to this family's house, warning them over and over and over, hey man, you need to get the fuck out of the damn woods, okay? You're stirring up some shit. And of course the father just keeps ignoring them. No spoilers here, but a little bit later in the film you find out that the creatures want something that the family has. And when the creatures show up to try to steal it away, that's when the movie starts to get a little bit interesting. Unfortunately for the film, interesting is about as extreme as the movie goes. And the finale of the movie was kind of a letdown. They even set up this big throwdown between the father and he has his weapon against the creatures, and even that just fell flat. The movie's not a bad film. It's not a bad film by no means. It's a good creature feature time waster. All they really had to do was just beef up, the excitement, the intensity, and the violence. The movie could have been way better. Again, not a horrible movie. So I give it a 3 out of 5. Next up we have The Invitation, directed by Karen Kusama, starring Tom Hardy clone Logan Marshall Green. The film is about Logan Marshall Green's character. He attends a dinner party at his former home. He's there to meet up with his ex-wife and her brand new husband and some other friends that he hasn't seen in a very long time, but he just senses something is just not right. Something is off. Now this movie is a very entertaining horror thriller. I recommend that you do not watch any previews, any trailers. Stay away, don't watch any reviews. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But yeah, give this a shot. It's actually on Netflix right now, and you can check it out. But I really enjoyed The Invitation because there's moments throughout the movie where you're watching Logan watch his ex-wife and her brand new husband, and little things happen throughout the movie that kind of tip him off and kind of make him go, For example, the husband walks over to the front door, he ends up locking the front door and he walks away, and he's all thinking like, why are you locking the front door, man? You got guests, what if there's a fire and whatnot, it's just very odd. But the director does a really good job of not just building tension throughout the movie, very uncomfortable tension, by the way, but you start to question Logan a little bit also. You start to question him. Does this couple have sinister intentions for him, or is he insane? Is he a little paranoid? And those little things was what made me enjoy The Invitation. The acting performances were very well done. The movie looked great. Yes, there are probably a few things that are predictable, but overall, I thought everything was very well done. Very good, entertaining horror thriller, and I give The Invitation 3.8 out of 5. Next up is Candyman 3, Day of the Dead, directed by Turi Mayer and starring Tony Todd and Donna D'Errico. All right. Now, I really enjoy the first Candyman. I think it's a very underrated horror movie. If you haven't seen Candyman, I highly recommend you guys check that out. Now, the second one, Farewell to the Flesh, I believe was okay. Obviously, it wasn't as good as the first, but this is worse than the second one. So in this movie, Donna D'Errico plays, ready? Here we go, plays Tony Todd's great-great-great-great-granddaughter. Right. Now before Tony Todd's character was murdered and before he became Candyman, he was a really good painter, he's a really good artist. Somehow his great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter has come into possession of all of these items. And a friend of hers wants to use those paintings for his art exhibit. Obviously, Halloween's coming around and it's just perfect timing to, look at the paintings of the Candyman. She's really not feeling it, but he kind of convinces her to, display the paintings. only if she can, show up and defend her great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, because apparently she doesn't believe in this whole Candyman myth, and that's not my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, that's someone else. So she's there to defend him, remember that. So Candyman starts to appear to her in dreams, kind of freaking her out, and the first thing I'm saying to myself is, why the fuck are you scared? This whole time in the movie is, that's not my relative, that is not him, and this is a farce, and I'm trying to clear the family name, and as soon as she sees her great-great-great-great-grandfather coming out of nowhere, she's like, ah! Oh, by the way, she is the worst scream queen, okay? She is horrible. Ah! Ah! And Candyman shows up and he's like, you have doubted me. You have doubted my existence, and now you must come with me. So literally, we have a back and forth of this shit, okay, of him appearing and she's freaking out and running away. And around the 40 fucking minute mark of the movie, 40 minutes in, I'm still asking the question, why? Why does she have to go with him? Why is he showing up saying, it is your destiny to be with me? It didn't make any sense. Apparently she doubted the myth this whole time as she was growing up, but why now he's appearing to her? It didn't make any sense. It was so stupid. The only saving grace for this film, really, the only thing positive is Tony Todd. Tony Todd could play this character in his sleep. He's very entertaining to watch. Even though the plot is dumb as shit, he's always fun to watch. So overall, this movie's just dumb. I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen way worse horror movies than this. But it's just not good. It's not a good sequel. So Candyman 3 Day of the Dead gets a 2.4 out of 5. Next up, we have the Funhouse Massacre, directed by Andy Palmer, starring Robert Englund and Clint Howard. Now, this movie is about 6 of the world's scariest psychopaths. Basically escape from a local insane asylum, and they end up coming across this Halloween funhouse, basically posing as the people that work there, and the chaos begins. Now this was a lot of fun. Very low budget movie, but there was a sense of fun about it. I mean, you can tell the people that were making this movie were having fun. You get some pretty good comedic moments and some pretty good gore effects. I mean, not all of the gore effects were amazing, due to the low budget of the movie, but there's some pretty good ones in there. You end up following this group of knuckleheads as they get off work and they go straight to the Halloween funhouse and they go through all the mazes and stuff, and a lot of the mazes were fun, the sets were cool. This film definitely deserves to be on your horror movie marathon list, and I give the Funhouse Massacre 3.5 out of 5. Next up, we have the film Starry Eyes, directed by Kevin Kolsch, Dennis Widmeyer, and starring Alex Essoe. The film is about a young waitress that has these dreams of becoming a huge movie star. She keeps trying out for acting roles and commercials, but she fails horribly. Then one day she goes in to read for a role for a horror film, and obviously again it goes bad. But then they notice something about her and they ask her to come back for another reading. Obviously something is not right and very strange about the studio making this film. And of course she goes back again because, she hates her life, she hates her job. But is she fully willing to do what is required for fame and fortune? This is a very well-directed and very good-looking movie, and a good performance from our lead actress. It is a very slow burn type of film though, just giving you guys a warning. There are some pretty good gore effects in this movie, but unfortunately I was expecting a little bit more in the finale. The movie just kind of ended. My reaction was basically, okay, all right, I want to see where this is going, okay. That's interesting, okay, now that we're here, let's see where the movie takes us. Oh, it's over, oh, okay, well, that happened. So again, not a bad movie. It just kind of fell a little flat, but still though, it was very interesting and it was very well done. So I give Starry Eyes 3.3 out of 5. Next up is Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, directed by Christopher Landon, starring Ty Sheridan. The film is about 3 scouts. They're on the eve of their last campout. They discover the true meaning of friendship when they attempt to save their town from a zombie outbreak. That's it. That's the movie. Simple. I had a lot of fun with this movie. We had some pretty good gore effects. Some of the comedy worked. I mean, when it worked, the movie was damn funny. And then sometimes it didn't work, and the perfect example of that is the Britney Spears joke. Not only was that horribly bad, but it was too long. And me and Lady Fatblood and my buddy Edgar were like, no, movie! We're on board this whole time, movie, what the fuck? You're losing points! I mean, it was bad. Luckily, there was a lot more gore and a lot more fun and comedy by the end of the movie, so I really enjoyed this one. I remember back when this movie came out, it really didn't do well with critics, and that's fine, to each his own. But the one thing I highly have to disagree with is boredom. Everyone said this movie was boring as fuck. Like they said, oh, the whole entire movie is boring, and all the cool shit happens at the last 5 minutes of the movie, and I did not get that at all. We were pretty much entertained all the way through. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you put this on your horror movie marathon list, and I gave Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse 3.7 out of 5. Next up, we have Hellions, directed by Who Gives a Shit, starring I Don't Give a Fuck. Spoiler warning, this movie fucking sucks. This movie's about a dumbass teenager that has to survive a night with killer trick-or-treaters at her door. This movie's so bad that even Lady Fatblood was like, this ain't even worth fucking talking about, man. This ain't even worth reviewing. This is not even worth a quickie review. I have to admit though, there is one thing that this movie does really well, and that's not explain shit. So again, dumbass teenager gets pregnant. Her mother takes her little 7-8-year-old brother out to fucking Vegas. Because apparently they don't come back to the house at all. I'm like, who stays out that late trick-or-treating with their 7-year-old kid? So with these fucking trick-or-treater ghouls, creatures, demons, children of the corn, whatever the fuck they are, you don't know. The more that they're around the house, the more she rapidly becomes more pregnant. So she tries to defend herself, she gets a gun, she botches that. She can't escape, she's useless. And then out of nowhere, Robert Patrick shows up in this movie. He was in the beginning of the movie for like 5 seconds, and then I guess he owed somebody a favor and showed back up in this movie later. And he shows up and he goes, I know what they want. Long time ago, when my wife wanted a child, they took her. And I'm like, so does his character know about these little shits? Is he okay with this? Is this something that's normal in this town? And he basically says to her, it's because of the harvest, okay? It's because of the harvest. Sure, whatever, movie. Fuck you, movie, sure. The harvest. So yeah, they were basically here to steal her baby.
Yeah! I stole the baby! I stole the baby!
So after Robert Patrick's character dies, hilariously by the way, a lot of pumpkins explode for no reason, and then they end up taking her baby. And then at the end of the movie, they show her in the hospital, healing up, and then she walks around with this stupid ass evil smile on her face. Do you miss your baby now after that experience, completely out of nowhere? Or are you happy it's gone? Like, make up your fucking mind. Did I mention the pumpkins exploded for no reason? So this movie has dumb characters we don't give a shit about, a boring plot we don't give a shit about, a lot of things happening that's not explained, a movie that felt like 3 hours. And guess what the icing on the cake is? The icing on the cake is the fucking wonderful soundtrack. Yeah. You like that? You like that? Do you like how that sounds? Yeah. You hear that throughout the whole fucking movie. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? You like it, right? Fuck this movie, 0 out of 5 stars. After watching that piece of shit movie, Lady Fatblood tapped out and went to sleep. Me and my buddy stayed up. We wanted to keep watching movies, man. So we decided to watch this movie called Creep, directed by Patrick Brice, starring Mark Duplass. The film is about a videographer. He answers a Craigslist ad for a one-day job in this remote mountain town, and he meets up with the character played by Mark Duplass, who is very sick and he only has 2 months to live. And he pays the videographer to record him throughout his day because he wants to give the video to his unborn son that his wife is having, so that when his son becomes of age, he can watch the tape and he can see what his father was like and what his interests were. Now, at first, me and Edgar were a little concerned because we're like, oh God, not another fucking found footage movie. But we were still curious, so we kept watching. And what really kept us glued to watching the rest of the film all the way through was the performance by Mark Duplass. Let's just say he has a very interesting personality. And the actor that plays the videographer is a little hesitant, and he's kind of like, did I make a mistake coming up here? And again, with no spoilers, all I'm gonna say is Peach Fuzz. Peach Fuzz. Yeah. Very surprisingly, me and my friend Edgar enjoyed the movie for what it was. The only two minor nitpicks, which I can't really talk about because of spoilers, there were two major big scenes that the videographer set up his camera to film, but he never really got around to watching it. The movie, I think, made a mistake of not making some kind of excuse of why he didn't watch those two scenes or what happened, because that's the first thing you think. I'd be like, well, he's making a decision to do something later in the movie. I think that decision would be different if he would have watched those two things that he recorded. But the movie never really explains why he never watched that footage. So that's the only two minor nitpicks, but still very good. I give Creep 3.7 out of 5. Next up is the film Bite, directed by Chad Archibald, starring Elma Begovic. There's gonna be spoilers in this one too. The film is about a character named Casey, and she's on her bachelorette party getaway. She's the bride-to-be. Casey and her friends end up going swimming in this secluded area, and that's when Casey gets bitten by this unknown insect. When she arrives back home after the trip, she starts to notice that something is wrong. Now, the only thing that really brought my attention to Bite was I was reading a list. I came across this list online of the top 20 horror films where people actually got up and were disgusted because of what was happening on screen, and they walked out. So I was curious. I was just looking at what were some of these titles where people just got up and left, like really people. So Bite was on there, and I wanted to check it out. And instead of Bite, they should have called this movie Annoying. Are you ready for this? 70% of this fucking movie is the bride-to-be character of Casey whining and crying. I don't want to get married. I'm not ready for marriage. I'm not ready to have children. That's the whole fucking movie. So she's annoying, her friends are annoying, her future mother-in-law is annoying. So literally, the whole movie, I'm like yelling at this character, go to the fucking hospital. What is wrong with you? Go to the hospital. Go to the emergency room. She notices the bite on her leg. It's getting worse, okay? There's these huge bumps now. There's pus just shooting out of it. She ends up trying to fuck her fiance, and he grabs her, and all of a sudden there's just pus just comes off on his hand. He's like, what the fuck is this? She's all like, no, everything's fine. And now she has like this gigantic hole in her fucking leg now. And after 45 fucking minutes, she finally calls the after hours nurse. And even the nurse gave her some tips, but even she was like, you might want to come in and get this checked out. But I don't want to get married. Then finally, she starts to slowly turn buggy. Her skin, her eyes, she starts to look all weird. But unfortunately, the second and third act basically took place in her fucking apartment. And that's due to all her little baby insect eggs that were everywhere. You know, she doesn't want to leave them. I can't leave them. So the only way we get any horror, any deaths or kills in this movie is for people to actually go to her apartment. And I think it would have been a lot more interesting if she would eventually have left the apartment and was outside, or maybe tenants throughout the whole apartment complex slowly start to go missing. I think that would have been a lot cooler instead of being stuck in this fucking apartment. So during her whole trip, the slutty friend was recording the whole thing, vlog style. And she records her laying on a table, and some other guy that Casey met, you know, comes across the table and starts kissing her neck and getting a little intimate. She's recording all of this. Well, earlier in the movie, Casey had access to this video and for some reason decided to not watch beyond that point. You'd think after her seeing the footage of her laying on the table and some random dude, you know, getting a little freaky there, you'd think after her seeing that, she probably was like, well, what the fuck? What the fuck are you recording this shit for? And maybe watch the rest of the video? But right before her slutty friend decided to get a conscience out of nowhere and go visit her finally, she watches the rest of the video, and you can see in the rest of the video where the guy ends up taking her to some random apartment and they end up fucking. Meanwhile, the slutty friend's filming all of this still. So now, fast forward to the present day where the slutty friend gets a conscience and I want to see how my friend Casey's doing. She goes into the apartment, gets captured and strapped and tied to a chair. Casey, who's all fucked up, who's half bug, mind you, decides to bring out the fucking laptop, sit it in front of the slutty friend, open it up and play the rest of the video. And then in half bug state, how could you do this to me? How could you just let him fuck me? It's all your fault. You made me cheat on my fiance. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so fucking dumb. This is so fucking stupid. So then the fiance shows up, he dies, Casey dies, everyone dies, and I'm still annoyed. And all the eggs of the insects burst open, and then they go out into the world and woo! So despite my annoyances with the movie, I've seen worse. I've seen Hellions. But if you want to really make a serious horror creature flick movie, you gotta do a lot better than this, man. I'm assuming the only reason people got up and walked out of the theater was because there was a lot of vomiting and pus, I guess. Ooh. David Cronenberg's The Fly. This is not. So I give Bite 2.5 out of 5. And that's it for today's video. If you have seen any of these films, let me know what you guys thought about them in the comments below. And as always, thanks again for watching. You guys rock. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time.
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.